You probably wouldn't be able to tell from a glance at my channel, but I really love video games. Not only does the medium end up producing some of my most favorite stories, but as video games are still a young art form, I have a massive amount of respect for the ones that did things first. While there's some tedium that comes with it, I love seeing when a game really experiments with itself and how that can end up translating to titles that it ends up inspiring. That combined with my long-running special interest in the Undertale and Deltarune series and my wish to someday play Toby Fox's Halloween hack could only lead to one outcome. I would have to figure out how to keybind my DualShock controller to a SNES emulator. Oh shit. Statistically, the vast majority of people subscribed to my channel, or watching this right now in general, have only ever encountered Earthbound and the Mother series through the works it inspired, like Undertale, the Lisa series, or hit indie RPG Play Rough. That, or you vaguely remember that one terrifying segment in the Subspace Emissary where a little blonde kid started crying because Wario shot what you probably assumed to be his older brother with a gun. Since you, viewer who played Smash Brawl when you were 8, have in all likelihood heard more of Earthbound than what's actually in it, let me give you a quick, I promise this will be quick, crash course. A young boy, Ness, is tasked with saving the world from an alien called Gygus, and along the way meets up with a girl named Paula. Paula has been having dreams about him and the rest of their soon-to-be friends, but it's taken a little bit to find her because she's kinda gotten kidnapped by a cult. Don't worry about it. Things well and truly really start kicking up in a town named 3, when Ness and Paula are fresh off the heels of breaking up said cult and are now up to their knees in a zombie crisis. The only resistance is set up in a crisis tent in the middle of town, and every single adult in charge is too cowardly or too incompetent to actually handle the problem. A growing trend for this game. So, again, somehow, it's up to us, the actual babies, to handle it. The zombie's master is a disgusting creature named Belch, and maybe if we can deal with him we can finish off this whole mess before it gets a lot worse. There's already puppets spilling out onto the walkways. I don't need the rest of Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria showing up to shake Ness and Paula down for their lunch money. No one's quite sure where to find Belch, but there are whispers that there's a secret passage in the graveyard. A passage blocked by zombies. This could be promising. Well, that's not going to work. Disheartened, we trudge back to the hotel for the night to regroup and come up with a new plan, and that's where we come across a suspicious lady that some of the kids around town have said is always talking to the zombies. After we follow her around, it's pretty clear why she went into that hotel. Because it's an ambush. For the first time in the entire game, we are completely helpless. We don't have any gadget up our sleeve to remove the cell bars, we can't call our dad, can't call our mom, can't even call our sister to deliver some keys that might be buried in her second inventory somewhere. None of the adults are coming to save us. We're alone. And with nothing else to do, all praise. And something interesting happens. In a faraway country called Winters, there's an all-boys boarding school. And in the school, there's a dorm. And in that dorm, 2 little boys are dreaming. One of them hears a little girl calling out to him, a friend he's never met, telling him that she's trapped, and that he's the only one that can help her and help Ness. For the first time in the game, our name is not Ness. His name, our name, is Jeff Andonuts, and we know it's not just a dream. The other boy's Tony. He doesn't dream about a girl. His are about Jeff. Don't worry about it. If we try to leave the room without waking up Tony, the other boy gets a bit upset. And even though he doesn't understand why Jeff has to leave in the middle of the night, he wants to help in any way he can. They gather some things for the journey from their mentor, Maxwell, a bottle cap rocket, a hat, some broken items that we are assured we'll be able to fix if we just apply ourselves. We're the son of a genius after all. These things run in the family. Don't worry about it. Our time with Tony is short, but he leaves an impression, helping Jeff out of the gate by giving him a boost. Don't worry, we'll see each other again. After all, we're best friends forever. You don't have a lot of options of things to do in Winters. There's a convenience store, but you don't yet know how best to manage your inventory as Jeff, and unlike Ness, you don't have an ATM card, so there's no way to access the money you've gotten so used to having at this point. And if you're like me, someone who's been stuffing his inventory with raw eggs and waiting for them to hatch into chickens while grinding for XP, you might have had thousands of dollars by now. There's no form of outside help either. You're an only child. You don't have a kid sister who's kind enough to give you another storage space. And if you try to make use of that phone system, you quickly realize that Jeff doesn't have his dad's number. Thankfully, you can still call Maxwell, so there is a way to save, but there's no Tony anymore. So, no second party member. If you want to get better items, your best bet is to go outside and figure out what items the animals will give you between fights. If you want another party member, you have to pay for the privilege and therefore sacrifice a precious inventory slot. And the weapons sold in this convenience are tantalizing. A bat for Ness with an offense of 48. A frying pan for Paula that will raise her attack by 50. The nicest by far, though, are the coins of silence that can be equipped by any party member that will boost your defense by 45 and your luck by 16. You'd be lucky if you've been able to afford items that could deal half that this far into the playthrough. Although the grindiness of Earthbound had already started to show its head by this point, the combat is by no means boring. It's just very punishing if you lose, especially in particular sections. You can only save at very specific points at each of the different towns. So if one of your party members is completely knocked out, then you either have to sacrifice precious items that may or may not revive them, or you have to walk all the way back to the doctor to be able to pay for the privilege. And if you're completely wiped out as a party, God, forget it. This can be particularly punishing if you get completely wiped out by any boss character, because if you revive, then you have to walk back through its entire area before being able to fight it again. And that boss is surrounded by very hard-hitting enemies that you might be under-leveled and have tanked most of your items to have even been able to get to this point. Very satisfying if you're able to get it in the first few attempts. Not so much if you have Paula on your team, who is maybe, at this point, 20 levels under Ness's, and can die in 2 hits. Just having that coin alone on her could just completely save so much time and headache later. And I'm not gonna lie, I really wanted that bat and frying pan. What's not so nice though is the price tag. That T-Rex bat, the cheapest out of all of them by far, is $698. If you want the fry pan, that's setting you back another $14.90, and the coin is more than both combined, sitting at a pretty $2,500. If you want these items that are very clearly meant for you to come back later, there's only one way to do it, and that's going to cost you hours of grinding. If you want to get these items legit and early, you're on your own. And that is when you start to put together that Winters is the setting of one of the two most tedious but impressive challenges in Earthbound in terms of grinding for items. Every Meowdy, this is the ultimate Winters grind. It took a few hours for me to figure out my footing on what would be the most effective way to spend my time doing this run. I've been fairly committed in my Earthbound playthrough to not looking things up, and I hadn't even planned on making this into a video until about halfway through raising enough money for the T-Rex bats. And that alone took several hours in and of itself to give you a bit of a scope on what we were working with here. I already knew going in that it's certainly mathematically possible, though. Earthbound is already known for how long it can take to get certain items, and it's just part of its gameplay. This isn't anything near the level of improbability as something like the far more infamous grind to get the Sword of King, where you have a 1 in 128 chance to get from one enemy in one area of the entire game. That's almost a mere 0.8% chance of a drop. Now, the thing about the Ultimate Winters grind is that it's long. Since you have no way of using the ATM, which is what you've been relying on up to this point as your most consistent source of cash, and because Jeff and the optional-ish second party member Bubble Monkey are currently quarantined to this little baby playground area of Winters, your best and only bet of being able to get these tantalizing items early is to be a total scourge on the local wildlife. As Jeff, you've got 3 types of enemies to fight in this area: goats, birds, and dogs. And it takes a bit to feel out how you want to go about things and figure out the process. For your first 5 or so levels as Jeff, gruff goats are terrifying to encounter, dealing a frankly disgusting amount of damage per hit, and generally just not worth fighting if you're trying to prioritize money over EXP, which is what we're doing. I mean, they don't even drop any good items. When you start out, you avoid goats because they can wipe you out in like 3 hits, and then when Jeff's in the double digits of his levels, you avoid goats because their item drops are abysmal. Trust me, goats are not worth your salt.
It's funny because the item that the goat drops is called a salt packet, and you can only sell it for $1.
I'm actually gonna skip talking about birds for a second solely because I want to gush about the dogs. I am fully convinced that the runaway dog enemies were solely put into Winters just to make this entire challenge not completely terrible. Their hit rate is low, they go down easy, and in Winters, they are specifically and intentionally modified to have a roughly 50-50 chance of dropping bread rolls, which is a massive upgrade from their normal 4 out of 128 drop rate. If you can figure out how to prioritize your backpack to be able to have 10 empty slots, with each bread roll selling for $6, you can make up to $60 per trip to the Kobini. And while that doesn't sound like much, it adds up. Dogs are going to be your best friends if you choose to do this challenge, and they are a welcome sight every time. But beware, little Jeff. As tempting as it is to just mindlessly button mash, you must keep a level head, lest you encounter one of these little bastards. I hate spiteful crows. It's one thing that their cookies sell for half as much as the bread rolls, meaning that you're already losing out every single time you initiate combat with these things, but they have a much higher evasion rate compared to the dogs. So, even when you're dealing over 100 damage with each hit at the later stages of this challenge, you still have to land that hit for it to even be worth anything. And, even if these stupid things didn't take much longer to fight than any of the other enemies in this region,
the thing that upgrades them from being annoying to an outright gamble every time you fight them is that crows can steal your items. I had an extremely unlucky run where I had a completely full backpack with bread rolls and was making my way back up to the compini.
And then one of those little assholes sniped me from behind, which means that they got to have the first turn, and they ended up taking 3 whole bread rolls from me. Believe it or not, jail. Jail for those stupid birds and their common glasses. Teddy from Mother 1 more than better anyway.
I do not like the birds, and each encounter with them is like a jolt of anxiety shooting right into my bloodstream. If you have any takeaway from this video at all, then let my suffering be a lesson to you. Encounter the upper winter spiteful crows at your own peril. And now, a brief addendum about the Bubble Monkey. I've got mixed feelings on this little guy. While he is very cute, and walking around with him can be pretty beneficial in certain situations, like when you're trying to pincer a specific enemy, it's best to think of him as a tool where you get out whatever you put into him. While he is required to be in your party for story progression purposes, there are a few pros and a few cons to using him specifically for this grind. The pros is that he makes the first several hours of this a lot easier. Having the Bubble Monkey in your party in these sections means that you ostensibly have double the amount of power and an actual fighting chance of being able to get away from gruff goats because they're not just focusing on killing Jeff. And once you're able to figure out his wacky little movement pattern, it makes it a lot easier to sneak up on enemies, therefore making it a lot easier to have a chance to have an extra turn right at the beginning, which usually means that you'll be able to one-shot most enemies. However, one thing to consider is that he does take up an entire inventory space. To be able to have him in your party means that you have to buy a pack of bubblegum from this lady in the conveni, and once you get the bubblegum, you're stuck with it. You can't throw it away and you can't sell it because then you would get soft locked. While this means you're only losing out on up to $3 per trip, this might not be worth it to some people doing this grind. If you find his movement patterns annoying or you just can't figure it out, then it can be tricky to get to use him in later parts of the challenge. That, plus him not leveling up alongside Jeff, means that he can feel like a bit of a burden in the later stages. Personally, I never found it annoying enough to actually bother me, but he is not a one-size-fits-all party member. Whether you decide to use him from minute 1, or only pick him up right when you want to activate Plussy to be able to finally continue with the story, is up to you. I didn't find my groove until making my first $600 or so into the run, so if you ever decide to do this for yourself, here's an average look at how it looks early on. Your inventory is going to be full of items that are in 2 categories: can't sell and don't need. Sell your hard-boiled egg and the cookies that you stole from that birthday party in the dorm room, you monster, and it's kind of a waste to use the bottle rocket right now anyways in the run, so go ahead and fork that over too. Do not be an idiot like I was and make sure you equip your gun and the Holmes hat right away instead of a frankly embarrassing handful of hours into the grind. Oh wow, the difficulty curve is intense at the lower levels. You forgot to put your hat on and you're trying to punch those birds, you stupid cat! An exploit you are very much going to want to become familiar with is that enemies reset when you walk far enough past them, so I like to hug this left corner halfway between the conveni and the tent. There's a few opportunities in this corner to shake off pursuing birds, and you're going to want to get equipped with this tent anyways because it is the only free area of healing in this part of Winters that doesn't skip days. While you're going to want to use this mechanic because it allows Jeff to fix some of the broken items in his inventory, which either gives you access to better funds or better items, And just a little tip here, don't go to sleep for the first time until Jeff reaches IQ 12 so that he can fix the broken airgun and turn it into the Magnum airgun. I wouldn't recommend over-relying on it. Not because it's not useful or anything, but because if you go to sleep, Paul is going to call out again in Jeff's dreams and remind you that they're running out of burgers. And if it happens, it makes me feel bad, so don't do that. And while we're on the topic of prioritizing an in-game character's feelings over your own gameplay, just imagine for a second what this would mean if we pretend that this grind is actually canon in the game's story itself. Little baby genius Jeff goes to the convenience store with $9 in his pocket, sees these exorbitantly priced items, and spends the night and the entire next morning hauling armfuls of baked goods over to this guy at the convenience store so that he can get $60 each time for his efforts. And to go even further, is that because Jeff wants these items specifically? Or is it more so that he has something to offer to these new friends who were already crying out to him for help in the first place? Jeff is incredibly isolated and doesn't seem like he has many people looking out for him. Sure, there's Tony, but he's already back in the dorm by now, and his mentor gives Jeff his phone number more out of obligation than anything else. Yeah, we still haven't seen Ness's dad at any point, but at least Ness has the option to call his dad. Where's the number to call Jeff's dad? Where's the guy we can call to track our progress? To get a little congratulatory cash to go forward on our journey? Where's that ring out of nowhere to make sure we're okay if we've been playing for too long? Oh. Sorry, Jeff, go ahead and take that.
Hello, it's your dad. You've been out there for a long time now. It may be none of my business, but don't you think it'd be a good idea if you took a break? Ah, and this would be... So this isn't Ness. Oh well, it's okay anyway. Don't strain yourself on your journey. Good luck, whoever you are.
Hey, champ? You doing okay there, little buddy? Oh, that's got to be one of my favorite things about doing this challenge. I feel like I got to look a bit under the hood of this game and see the ways that the devs really sought out how to allow people like me to play this game. Dogs are intentionally programmed to drop better items only in this area. They put a tent here so you don't constantly eat shit and die. Ness's dad can call Jeff and will acknowledge that while that's not his kid, will still express concern anyway that somewhere out there is a child who doesn't know when or where he's going to go to sleep for the night. And that's just something you can optionally run into. That's where our average loop is gonna look like too. You exit the Combini, check the top section right here for stray dogs, then you go through this path in the middle to avoid getting ambushed through the trees on the left, and you're just gonna keep resetting screens over and over until you see more doggies. Remember, we're gonna want to avoid the birds if we can, because the birds are asshole creatures that keep stealing your damn brioche. Hang on. These guys shouldn't even be eating bread. What the? And we're just gonna keep doing it. Hours and hours and hours of this. And as we trudge through the cold, pseudo-British night into the morning, snow solid and settled on the trees as you pass them by over and over again, you start to recognize the patterns of the wildlife. Since the bubble monkey doesn't level up along with you, you really start to see it with each fight. Your experience levels an exponential separation. You get better at tightening your loop, at cornering enemies by taking advantage of the bubble monkey's pathing, at running away from those fucking birds. I always wondered why people attempted things like this. Do they do it because it's fun? Or
Do they do it because it's something you can say you've done? A badge of honor or a mere shiny sticker that'll eventually fall off my computer? I think about Ness and Paula. From where I am, it's been weeks of just booting up the game whenever I have a free moment during my shifts, but in their perspective, they've been sitting trapped in a cold prison the entire night and the better part of a morning. The only things they have to eat sitting in their inventory. Are they waiting patiently? Are they cold? Are they hungry? As the hours pass, do they start to doubt? I wonder when those hours start to crawl on for Jeff. I wonder if doubts start to swirl in his head too. And maybe that's why it's possible to do this. Maybe that's why he sold what had to have been hundreds of baked goods to this vendor. He doesn't just want these items to give to his friends. At this point, he needs them to prove he's capable of it. The other kids might need him, sure, but is he good enough? Will they just take his stuff, say thanks, see ya for getting us out of prison? As we finally get to the amount of money we need, an exact and perfect 4,688, it just settles in for a moment. We've done it. We're really here. And there's nothing left but to keep going. Managing your inventory feels strange after all that. You can't bring a lot of new items with you, so it's more important than ever to make sure you're using the little space that you have left well. Look at that thing. It's packed tighter than a city bus after school let out. The world opens up a bit, but not by much. We are very much not Ness, and we can't defeat the evil here on our own. Well, not on our own. We've still got our friend the Bubble Monkey. Oh. Just like that. Well, it's not like our day can get any worse. Are you serious? No. Are you serious? All that time, 10 years for Jeff, several weeks for us, and this is our first time meeting Jeff's dad? No, you've got to be kidding. There's no way. Oh
God. Fuck you. It's a hollow feeling flying to 3. Tony had to stay behind. The bubble monkey ditched us the moment he saw someone he liked better, and our dad couldn't get us to leave fast enough. What's to stop Ness and Paula from doing the same? You crash. Guess that's another thing you can't depend on your dad for. Tired, covered in soot, you crawl out of the wreckage and look at 2 faces peering out at you. And suddenly, your name is not Jeff anymore, but Ness. And there's a boy your age who has been trying so very hard to find you. And when he speaks, it's almost like he's pleading for forgiveness. I'm Jeff. I came because you called me. I'm not really strong, really nearsighted, kind of shy, and I tend to be a little reckless. This is just the way I am. I hope you want me to be your friend. Okay? And there's only one thing you can say to something like that. You say yes. Hey, editing Meowlian here, and as a little nerd might say, QED. I'm alive! It's a little surreal to finally be able to get to this point and just be able to yap into the microphone. And you've heard enough of that already, so I'll try to keep it super brief. I want to say a special thank you to my patrons who were able to just watch the entire train wreck of me trying desperately to get this video out. It has been a time. I also wanted to credit the voice of Ness's dad in this video, which is another YouTube channel called An Ethical Nerd. He really did me a solid by doing that, so I'm gonna do him a solid and shout out a video project that he's working on. If you have been wanting to see an actual musical theorist's response to my Penumbra Phantasm video, then this is a channel you're going to want to watch out for. I am very grateful that I've been able to have any sort of capacity in being able to keep an eye on it, and I for one am already blown away by the amount of effort he has put into it. So go! Look at his stuff! Go right meow! Now, if you'll excuse me, I know a man who is very tired, and that man is me. And he still needs to finish actually playing Earthbound, so while I get on that, have a nice day, and remember that Ness and Lucas did not come from the Subspace Emissary. Remember not to eat hamburgers straight out of a trash can. And I believe in skies forever blue, so why shouldn't I believe in you? Bye!
At the risk of making some viewers feel like I was potentially insulting their intelligence, I did just want to point out something that I think is really cool is I wasn't joking about that bit with Tony. It's not just vibes that he's putting down. He's literally canonically gay. He's a little gay baby. I love him. Everybody say thank you, Tony. Thank you for being a gay icon, little baby Tony.